What is going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday. Bobby Fye and Eric Sheetaber. We're going to be talking through today's NBA slate. We obviously have more games on DraftKings, I'm saying on FanDuel tonight than we do on DraftKings, as they are playing the – oh, no, we don't have more games. I'm sorry. We have the same amount of games on both sites. Wow. I misread that. For those of you guys who are seeing me turn and all this stuff, I've got a new monitor. I'm still trying to figure out how to incorporate it into my workspace. So sorry if it's a little bit strange to see me looking away like this, but I'll figure something out. Had a good night last night. Finished sixth in the alley-oop for like 5K, but came close to really having a shot there. Just was not Amin Thompson's night, and basically was pretty crisp other than that, and ran pretty good other than that one play. But Sheets, how was your night? And then we'll get into tonight's slate.
I snuck into the money with the Monster and FanDuel down the stretch with a couple of those the last push from the Nuggets chalk. Not Nuggets, Warriors chalk. That got there for me at the end. Literally, I think cashed by 1 point. And then my complete total lock sports bet. I put like a lot. I put like 1,000 on it. They won like I had Hawks plus the points. They covered easy by a half a point. No problem. That's it. And you know what they pay for that? The exact same as if you won by 50. So
yeah, that's right.
The good thing is, I have to say that I really don't know how the game ended. I really didn't even watch it. I saw like the final. I'm like, oh, that must have been a fun one. I bet you it was a real sweater one way or the other, because I know the Rockets were winning in the fourth quarter, pretty much the whole, most of the fourth quarter. Yeah. I forgot that I had to bet on it until after the game was over. Oh my God, what's the score? I'm like, ooh, let's go. So tonight I'm not going to be around because I am going to see the best player in the world at Madison Square
Garden. Love it, Jokic.
Oh, I thought you meant Jalen Brunson, but yeah, Jokic is going to be there too. So he'll maybe I'll check him out also. But yeah, and the funny thing is that this is like really weird. Like I've been to a bunch of basketball games in like my life, I guess, but I've never seen Jordan play live.
That's wild.
I never saw Jordan play live. Well, because it was weird. Like, that was like a weird time, not in my life, whatever, but I wasn't really going to games all that much. I never saw Magic play live. Like, so many guys, like, I never saw. It was weird. And I did see Luka, though, a couple of years ago. So that was good. So he was the best player at that time, I think.
Yeah.
Until Jokic, really extended himself. So, yeah, I get to see Jokic. If I'm not mistaken, not even a questionable tag. So I'm not worried about that. And I'm actually looking forward to it.
And you get to see my guy Westbrook run all up and down the court.
Oh my God, and Westbrook too. Oh, I've never seen him play also. But
there you go. That's great.
Actually, that's not true. I have seen Westbrook. When Westbrook, I went to a game. I literally don't even remember who was on the teams, but it was like all like the top 50 players. It was back when LeBron was in Miami. I saw them play the Thunder when it was like Westbrook and Harden. Like it was like everybody. It was like I think it was LeBron, Wade, and Bosh, and I think it was Harden and Westbrook and Durant. You know what I mean? Like, I forgot when all of them were. I don't know if they were ever all on the team at the same time, but it was back in those days when I think they might have been.
That's wild.
So it was like a Christmas game in Miami I went to. So that was good. That's the closest I came. That's actually pretty good to get to see all those guys in one game.
It's crazy. The most expensive game I've ever been to of any kind was actually when Magic came back from the AIDS thing in '96.
Oh, right.
The Bulls were coming. The Bulls were the greatest team ever at the time, and the Bulls come to the Staples Center once a year. I'm sorry, back then. Sorry, it was the Forum back then. Bulls would come to the Forum once a year, and Magic's second game back after being gone for however many years. That was literally when I was a kid. I was like, that was the one I begged to go to because that was pretty freaking cool. But I love basketball. I haven't gone to as many games recently, but I think that's there's nobody who I'd rather see in person than Jokic. I think it's just like the greatest. So I'm stoked for you.
And well, for me, I mean, he comes out once a year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So this will be fun.
You only get one chance, yeah.
But the good thing is, there's a chance I might play tonight. The only reason I might is I think because like all my lineup is going to be in the first game of the night, maybe. We'll see.
We'll see. You might be able to get away with it.
We're gonna see. We'll see how it goes. But I guess we'll just get started with that and right off the bat, okay? So I have in my let me share my screen. Okay. So according to my projections as of now, you have everything pretty much. Well, the top two plays like by a ton are on Charlotte with Musa Diabate and Josh Okogie. I have them at like 7+X and like 50+% ownership each projected. So those are going to be obviously the top values. And then I also have Nick Smith Jr. and Miles Bridges, like all four of those guys projecting very, very well. So what would be nice is if there was a Brooklyn dude to pair with them. I guess he's not going to project well, but I guess D'Angelo Russell, I suppose. I don't know. When I look at the projections, I'm really not seeing too much from Brooklyn though.
Yeah.
What do you like here, except for the obvious things I mentioned?
Yeah, I do like Russell. I don't care about the projections so much with him. It is weird. There's sort of strange rotations and everything with Brooklyn, but I still think that he's got plenty of upside. So I like Russell a little bit. I don't have a ton of them in my first builds. On the Charlotte side, though, like you said, it's kind of nice to have a run back because you're getting to a bunch of Okogie, a bunch of Diabate. I'm still deciding what I want to do with this because I do think that Okogie at 65% ownership is always a little bit scary. Although he smashed last time. He didn't even start, by the way. So like if he doesn't start again, I wonder if these numbers come down, which I've been guessing he wouldn't, but you never know with Charlotte. Nick Smith Jr. and then Bridges. That's the order I have the ownership, but I've got 25% of each of those guys, and also getting to a little Misic, and then if you want to get frisky, I think Isaiah Wong or KJ Simpson would be the large field tournament plays. But yeah, lots to like from Charlotte just with all those bodies out. Just would love to see a starting lineup, and hopefully we get one later. I'm curious what happens to it because last time Okogie's ownership dropped a decent amount when they announced he wasn't starting, but he still smashed anyway. So I'm just wondering what happens if he doesn't start tonight. All right.
Well, and also what's cool is that this is that if you play all this value, whatever, like from Charlotte, then I could play my Jokic with like Brunson pairing.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And unfortunately, I can't do what I really want to do is Jokic Cat because they're both centers.
Yeah.
And Diabate's a tough fade, I think.
I think you're right about that.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm just building. This has a little bit to do with projections, but not like too much, right? So if I really want to do this, so I'm going to be at the game. So I play like these values, and then let's see, what does this look like? I put like this in here. This is only a couple of more cheapos I need to come up with to make all of this work. So we'll see. We'll see what I can do.
Nice. All right, well, let's go to it. What's the next one you've got there?
I got Toronto, Washington next.
All right, let's do that.
Okay, so again, I'm just looking at points per dollar here. Okay, so once again, total 6,600. Just the wrong slate, I think. Well, okay. So it seems like they have this conversation every night. So Podol and Duran both around 6K as like pivots off of either Diabate or the Jokic Cat if you want to go that route. Keyshawn George from Washington at 4K adds to the value parade. And so that looks pretty decent, like 5.5x or so. What else? RJ Barrett, I guess. He always tilts me. I'll tell you who else really tilts me is like Scotty Barnes for some reason. But yeah, he takes bad shots. I don't like the shots he takes, whatever. But I guess from a fantasy perspective, he's always seems to get there. But yeah, both those guys look pretty decent, like Barnes and Barnes and Barrett. But Washington, any other Washington guys? Maybe listen. You could always play Jordan Poole. What do you like from this game?
Yeah, so I actually am high on Podol. Like I know that, so it's going to be tricky with the double center builds with Diabate, but like he is a guy who's I'm still getting 20% of him. I think RJ Barrett and Scotty Barnes are both probably a little better than their projections would indicate. This is such a great matchup. This feels like something we should target. So I actually am going to manually update up their projections just by a couple points. especially Scotty Barnes. I think this is a really good matchup for him.
Okay.
And so Washington is just, I just watch them play. They're just the worst defensively of any team ever. Like they're so bad. So I just want exposure there. And then I like Jordan Poole. Sabersim seems to always like Jordan Poole on the other side. I like Jordan Poole. The problem with the Kaishan George that I have is just there's so like he just keeps playing like 25 minutes and putting up like 5 fantasy points. And I can't.
Well, that's not good.
Yeah, so I would like to be underweight that one myself. And then I think Kuzma's in play, as is Koulibaly. So those are all these guys. I mean, these first games are pretty interesting. So I can see why you might be able to get away with playing tonight.
I like the Koulibaly, by the way. I mean, the play tonight. I mean, I've been sweating him and watching him and anti-sweating him. He's very active. I like him.
Yeah, I think so too. Oh, and for what it's worth, by the way, I didn't get the updated projections, but Joe Val, what has happened since we've been on here? Something must have.
Sara's out.
Okay, so I must have. How did I miss that? Oh, I just hadn't updated my projections yet. Yeah, it was out about a half hour ago.
Yeah, I missed that too.
So it's either going to be Rashawn Holmes as double value or Joe Val. I think the Joe Val thing is probably reasonable chalk, assuming that he starts. To be honest with you, so
I tell you this, they played Rashawn Holmes a little bit the other day. I saw him in the game.
Yeah, it's possible. Like we've seen this happen before, and if he starts, he's one of those things where, yeah, you can try to fade it, but you might be missing out on like 40 fantasy points. But I don't know. I mean, it just depends on what they would really let him do. So I'm curious how they end up. Most likely they just start Joe Val, but I think Holmes is still kind of interesting as a pivot, off the bench. But the problem is center is really strong. I think this is almost like an all center utility slate for me.
It's one of those like fantasy draft.
Exactly. Yeah. Give us the 9 centers. All right. Next up, we have Detroit and Indiana. What do you like here, Sheets?
Right. So I mentioned earlier, Jalen Duren. I think if you like Podol, you sort of have to like Duren too. Same type of idea. What else in this game? Not too much, really. What do you anything showing up for you here?
Yeah, I don't know what, like, if you're going to play, like, if we're going to have Joe Val, Duren, I like Podol. Like, I'm telling you, the center position is very, very strong today, and it's a great matchup for Duren. So, like, I mean, look, I'm not going to argue against it. I can't play everybody. But I do think Duren is definitely, like, one of the guys to consider for what it's worth. On the other spots, like, I guess Asar Thompson would be my next favorite. I'd like to do something with this matchup. Like, it's Indiana. I think if you just want to maybe keep it simple and just like maybe I'll have one lineup with like a Cade Halliburton thing or something at no ownership in a game with a monster total. That's probably my favorite thing to do here. But I guess if you're just building naturally or for cash or for just like guys to think about, just as if you're to get 10% of it, would probably just be Duren and Siakam. But I might go out on a limb and just take a shot with the Cunningham and Halliburton. Makes some sense to me, so I might give that one a shot. Yeah, there's just too many centers. As we're here to chat. All right, 7:30. What's your first game at 7:30? It's
Chicago Boston.
Oh yeah, do you mind jumping off on this one?
Yeah. I guess is Derek White back? I guess.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm assuming White will play. Yeah. I mean, he's quite like Horford, Hauser, and Tatum are all questionable. I don't think White has any injury designation.
Well, you know who's breaking the slate tonight. We know this for sure. It's totally going to be Al Horford. But
don't even. Yeah.
but aside from that. I don't really see too much in this game, honestly. Jaylen Brown looks like the best play that I can come up with. Aside from that, I really don't see anything.
Yeah, I will force in some Lonzo Ball.
He's been doing it, man.
He always starts off incredibly hot, and then the Bulls are just so bad that they barely can get him back in the game. I think these projections have not updated in some sense. Like with no Levine, I know Kobe White's still questionable. If Kobe White's out, then we're talking about Giddey, we're talking about Vucevic and Lonzo. We're talking about Dosunmu. But if Kobe White is in, I think Kobe White's probably the best play on the Bulls. And look, you got to hope. But Boston hasn't exactly been like a world beater the second half of the year, or not second half of the year, second half of the first half of the year. And it's just all depends on the Boston Q tags. It's a great matchup, but there's nobody who stands out like on their own. So like I'm not really getting to much now, but I would have no issue if I ended up with anybody from Boston. I just want to see what happens with the Q tags a little bit later. Touch that one up at 6 Eastern. I know you'll be out tonight because you're at the game, but I will be around there. And then we get to Cleveland and Miami.
Yeah, this one is sneaky. I mean, I don't want to say sneaky. Darius Garland's resting, okay, for Cleveland. So you're getting Ty Jerome as he usually shows up at 6x projection. I definitely like that. Boy, oh boy, though, wouldn't it be fun? I mean, not the greatest matchup. Wouldn't it be fun to get a big freaking ceiling game at low ownership with Donovan Mitchell? I mean, is it possible that he's low owned with Garland out? I mean,
it seems like it won't be. It seems like this is a miss on projections early in the day, would be my guess.
Yeah, it has to. I mean, I'm seeing a 2%. I mean, like that's just not happening, right?
Yeah, I don't think so either.
But listen, and this is one of those situations where Miami's not the team you normally want to go after or whatever, but you just have Mitchell with
this ain't the same Miami team. They get lit up every game now by the point guard. So
and Butler just sits there and watches it happen. It's like
right.
Literally just watches it happen. So Ty Jerome is going to obviously show up as a very, very strong point per dollar play, and I definitely think Mitchell's pretty good. And I'll tell you this: if in fact, well, why am I making an excuse for this game? But I was coming up with this idea that if Mitchell really starts to get it going, that somehow, some way, we'd see a big Tyler Hero game. I don't know. Is 8,800? That's so much. Jeez. Yeah, maybe I did it. He did get 60. Wait, was this? This had to be overtime, right? 48 minutes.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I guess this is a bit ambitious at 8,800, but I definitely like Mitchell, and obviously, Ty Jerome obviously looks like a good player.
Yeah, Ty Jerome, it's hard not to make him a core guy with he's really productive in these spots, and obviously with no LeVert and no Garland and no Dean Wade for that matter, and no Okoro, he should get plenty of run. So no issue with the Ty Jerome chalk. I agree with you about Mitchell. I think that's a really good play, and I actually think he's being a little bit under projected. I think 45. Well, it's not much, but like that extra 1.5 might get him into more of your builds. And then Max Struss, I think, is kind of interesting. So all three of those guys I have double-digit ownership of, obviously, like 75% on Jerome. Khalil Ware, to add to the list full of centers, he definitely belongs in that conversation. It is what it is. He gets there every game.
He sure does.
And Bam has power forward eligibility, so I think Bam is kind of interesting. So those are my two favorite plays, and I wouldn't have any issue getting to Hero even at a high price, just because I do think he has a ceiling. We know he has a ceiling. Obviously with no Butler, and I think that's totally reasonable. I didn't get to much of the Jovic, but it's something I'd be like I wouldn't cross off if I got there. All right, now we get to Sacramento and Philly.
Looks like a pass. But again, I mean, especially I presume Paul George is. I would say presume.
Yeah.
Presuming Paul George is back.
I don't think Paul George. No, I think he's out for like a week.
Oh my goodness! So if he went MRI. He had an extensor tendon injury. I mean, I don't know. Play those same guys. You tell me.
These projections are going to change. They have Yabusele's questionable. Drummond is.
I don't see that.
He is.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So Yabusele, Drummond, and I think they're like where I'm looking right now at NBA, like they probably are just doing it because they really don't know on the back-to-back what they're going to do with them, and Drummond might play. So it's tough to guess, but they're trying to win games. I'll tell you that. Tyrese Maxey was going to put up like 75 last night, but he got or the night was last night. Yeah, it was. God, my brain is like fried. It was last night. Maxey was going to put up like 75, but he, they blew out my Lakers, and I think Maxey's a great play. I don't care about the 9,800. He put up 54 in 2.5 quarters, basically.
Yep.
Justin Edwards, I'll go right back to it, and I will go back to my guy Ricky Council, who I think they're going to keep giving more minutes to. But right now, like Kyle Lowry and Caleb Martin are both doubtful, and they're still getting a projection. Andre Drummond, we don't know what'll happen with that. So this might be the team that we're focused on later today. So just right now, it may not look as good, but I think that by the end of the day, we're going to be right back on the Philly train again.
Yeah, so Knicks Nuggets. I mean, we've talked about already like some cheapos that from Okogie to Diabate and Jerome, and the import of that is that you can get to Jokic if you want to. Maybe you don't want to. I don't know. You have Wemby in the next game. Who has 80
point slate of all time.
Who has 80-point upside too? Whatever. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Jokic. Listen, Jokic is always a good play. But I also like your I had a couple of things in this game. I like the Westbrook idea for openers, and not only that, we talked about Brunson, but I really like Cat in this game. He's I think when he was in Minnesota, we would play him against Jokic like all the time. That Jokic doesn't feel like chasing him out there, whatever. So maybe instead of, and I promise you I'm playing something from this game. Maybe instead of like the Jokic Brunson, maybe I'd go like Cat Westbrook or something. Maybe that's something I can do.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, so I like regular the normal guys. Although I don't know if and when his projection is going to kind of catch up, or maybe this is an illusion. But this Christian Braun can fill it up. I mean, this guy's this guy's doing it. So I don't know what he's going to look, what he looks like on days where like everybody's in or whatever. But he's certainly a big part of this program, so to speak.
Yeah, I think that I prefer him in like the high paced matchups. He had a big game against Chicago. He had a big game against Sacramento. He did have a big game against Orlando, which is sort of goes against my point. But I think he's blossoming. He's really taken the next step this year, and I think he's still on his way up. So no issue with the Braun thing myself, but I personally am more on the Westbrook, Jokic, and I like the Cat idea. I just can't play every center.
Right.
I also bumped up Jamal Murray's projection a little bit. It's like one of those spots where like if he gets hot in Madison Square Garden, he makes his first couple of shots. Like don't expect him to stop shooting. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things with the guys like that are heat check guys. So I wouldn't mind getting to a little bit of Murray either, but mostly it's going to be Jokic, Westbrook, and a little bit of Towns for me. I just am going to have to figure out how many. I don't think I'm going to have any non-center utility lineups as of right now.
Yeah, you have to almost. I mean,
yeah.
All right. So speaking of which, I mean, then you have to deal with the Wemby anti-sweat. I mean, like every single game, like you don't play Wemby, you look up at the board, he's got 38 fantasy points midway through the second quarter or something like that. And
yeah.
Like, whoa, and you're like, okay, is my slate over? I mean, that's the type of upside this guy has, and he gets that up. He gets it really, really fast.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he's going to be very low owned, I think, tonight. Because again, like you're playing Diabate in one spot. We already talked about like 75 good mid-range centers you could play. Not to mention that you could get to Jokic, so you could play Jokic. I mean, Wembanyama can't be more than 10% owned, if that, on this kind of slate. So you want to try it. Again, not the greatest matchup, but who cares with him? So I'm not dismissing him. Aside from that, I'm not really getting much anything.
Yeah, I will. Look, I'm not gonna like play like much of it or anything, but I'll probably throw Kawhi into a lineup.
Ooh, he's going back to. But he's even
like,
realized that he played.
He's not that guy. Like he's not that one. We've seen this happen before. But also his minutes are not fully increased, but they did increase a little bit, which is more the reason I want to play him.
What is he like 6,500 or something?
69.
Yeah. Okay.
And I just think there's enough upside for us to play him here, especially if you're going to play some Wemby, because I love Jokic, but I also love Wemby, and I honestly don't know how I'm going to end up center wise. Right now, I have more Wemby than I do Jokic. I doubt that I end up that way, but man, it's hard to argue against either of these guys. I'd make the case that they're both potentially underpriced. Jokic puts up. I mean, Wemby's a little different because he had a little bit of a lull, for a while. Jokic is just getting like, I don't know. It feels like a miracle anytime he has less than 75, and I see him projecting 63, and it's like I don't know. But yeah, Wemby's one of them. Not the ideal matchup, but I do think that Wemby has got to be on your list of 95 centers, and that's mostly what I have from this. That's pretty much it, actually. I guess, other than maybe a lineup with Kawhi for old time's sake.
Yeah, I don't know if I could do 22x minutes out of Kawhi.
Well, I think he's going to play he'll play like 28, and he's being projected at 28. Yeah, okay. That's what he's projected at. That's my guess is 28, but I think there's upside on it. All right, Dallas and New Orleans to close this out, Sheets.
Right. Okay. Well, again, if I were really like playing and just and ready to late swap and do whatever, I would ride this PJ Washington train for a while.
Let's do it.
Looks like a tough price to pay, but he scores, he rebounds, he's just all over the place, So I don't mind it at all. He's going to be 0% owned, I think. So I wouldn't mind that. And if you get to, this will be my advice to you guys, if you have stuff later and you need to screw around, I mean, I definitely think that you could play that. You can add, I suppose, continue to add Gafford to your list of 74 centers. He's probably the least, point per dollar value play of them all. I mean, he's up to 7,400 now, I guess. So that's gonna be a rough one. Who else in this game? Well, I'll say this: that Kyrie was really, I don't want to say off. He was almost like invisible in the last game. And I wouldn't be surprised if he had an improved game. He had played 39, 42 minutes. 30. He'd been playing a bunch of minutes. That game blew out, and he really wasn't too active. I mean, every once in a while, but maybe this isn't the matchup for it. I'm not sure. Aside from that, the game is probably a pass. But if you need to screw around with late swap stuff, I guess PJ Washington would be the one guy I would throw in.
I'm with you on the Washington. I want to play him like he and like Avdia are like two guys I like to play all the time. Like when they start to get the stuff. Like the one thing that hurts him a little bit is that if Najee Marshall's back, it's not, he's still fine. It's just he's been playing a million minutes and getting a ton of usage. But I think Washington and Kyrie are both totally in play. Although I'm not getting to a ton on my early builds, I'm going to try and rerun things a little bit later because I didn't have some updated stuff. And then I think DeJounte Murray is somewhat in play. But overall, nothing that's a priority for me in this game. And I sort of have my core right now as like I don't know if we're going to necessarily have to have 100% of Kogi by the end of the day. Something feels fishy a little bit about this one to me. But again, as I mentioned the other day, like when he wasn't starting, I said, oh, now's the time to play him because you'll get less ownership. He still had like 25% ownership, but it wasn't like 75. Something just feels funny. And you've got the center. I guess that's the biggest take is that I don't know how to play a non-center in utility lineup. If you go sort by value, you're going to see like 9 centers in the top like 15 players basically, and that's not including like Jokic and Wemby. So it's pretty tough to avoid the center utility. You know who you didn't comment on really was the whatchamacallit, was the other guy from Charlotte, the Nick Smith. Do you like that at all? Yeah, I mentioned that I think Nick Smith. Yeah, I right. Like in my first build, I had like 15% of them. I think it's fine. I don't think it's like a high priority. Something about this Charlotte thing, I just feel funny about it. I know we're gonna end up with some pieces. Diabate is currently the one, but I think I might end up with, because of the center so strong. If you don't play Diabate, maybe you just play Daquan Jeffries instead at power forward. And that way you can use the centers for the spend ups. Like if I was going to play Wemby and Jokic together, I would just play Jeffries as my forward. You know what I mean? Because that's the way that Diabate doesn't get run. That's not bad, actually. I like that. Still, Diabate is going to get there probably. So, but that would be the pivot, I think. Anyway, I'll be live at 6 Eastern. Sheets will be headed to the game. Yep. Well, here's another guy, by the way, that I just see him in my lineups that might get some love with Garland out, is Sam Merrill. He's 3,400. Again, he hasn't really done much in a while, but I don't know, with one of the guards out, I mean, he's going to be shooting. So, well, remember, Max Struss was gone when he did anything earlier in the year, and Struss is back. So I personally, even if he projects well, I probably won't get to a ton of Merrill unless for some bizarre reason he starts. I guess he could start. Yeah, I'll have to revisit that one a little bit later.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, good luck today, and I'll see you guys live at 6.
Okay.